First Contact Protocol Breach. Observation Log 2317. Senior Scout ZIX 427. Earth Monitoring Station Alpha. The humans were doing it again. Senior Scout ZIX 427 adjusted his quantum sensors for the third time today, convinced they must be malfunctioning. Through the invisible barrier of his cloaked observation post, he watched a group of firefighters battle a massive warehouse blaze in the small town of Miller's Creek. According to every scan, every measurement, and every analysis, what these humans were doing should be impossible. Their protective gear couldn't withstand these temperatures. Their bodies shouldn't function in such extreme conditions. Yet there they were, moving with impossible precision, seemingly guided by an intuition that defied explanation. Command, requesting verification of sensor readings. ZIX 427 transmitted, his four fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Subject Group Delta is exhibiting anomalous behavior again. The response came instantly. Confirmed. Scout. All readings accurate within normal parameters. ZIX 427 felt his auxiliary heart skip a beat. If the readings were accurate, then the implications were staggering. The firefighters weren't just brave. They were unconsciously manipulating local space-time, creating microbubbles of altered reality around themselves to survive conditions that should have been lethal. He had been watching humans for 3 Earth years now, gradually building a case file that threatened to shatter the Galactic Council's classification of humanity as a Category 2 primitive species. The firefighters were just the latest example. Last week, it was a mother lifting a vehicle off her trapped child. Before that, a surgeon performing an impossible operation, guided by what he called a gut feeling. The most unsettling part wasn't their abilities. It was their complete obliviousness to them. Every single human he observed genuinely believed they were ordinary biological creatures. They attributed their impossible feats to adrenaline, luck, or coincidence. They wrote off their predictive dreams as imagination and dismissed their children's occasional telepathic moments as cute coincidences. His mandibles clicked in agitation as he added another entry to his growing report. Subjects continue to display unconscious manipulation of fundamental forces. No indication of awareness. Theory. Species-wide suppression mechanism in effect. A high-pitched alarm suddenly cut through his thoughts. The quantum sensors were picking up another anomaly, this time from inside his supposedly undetectable observation post. ZIX 427 turned slowly, his compound eyes widening at the sight before him. A human child, no more than 6 years old, stood in the corner of his station, examining his equipment with curious eyes. She shouldn't be able to see the station, let alone be inside it. The stealth technology was beyond anything Earth scientists could detect. "Hello," she said simply, smiling. "Your ship feels funny, like sunshine through a prism." ZIX 427's training deserted him. First contact protocols, non-interference directives, and years of careful observation collapsed in the face of this impossible moment. You can see me." The girl nodded, running her hand through the holographic displays as if they were water. "Sometimes I see the hidden things. Mommy says it's just imagination." She frowned slightly. "But you're worried about something. I can feel it buzzing like angry bees." Before ZIX 427 could respond, a woman's voice called from outside. "Emily? Where are you, sweetie?" "Coming, Mom." The girl turned to leave, then paused. "Don't worry so much. We're not ready yet, but we will be soon. That's why we forgot in the first place." With that cryptic statement, she simply walked through the station's solid wall and ran back to her mother. ZIX 427's appendages trembled as he began his emergency transmission to command. Priority override. Classification. Omega. The humans aren't suppressing their abilities. They're incubating them. This isn't a primitive species. It's a larval stage. And I think they're beginning to wake up. The frequency anomaly. Research Station Epsilon 9. Classified facility. Lunar dark side. Chief Researcher Kira 189. The quantum resonance chamber shouldn't be showing these readings. Chief Researcher Kira 189 had calibrated it herself, triple-checked every calculation, and still, the evidence before her threatened to upend everything her civilization thought they knew about consciousness and evolution. "Play it again," she ordered, her bioluminescent patches pulsing with anxiety. The holographic display came to life, showing a three-dimensional model of Earth's psychic wavelength patterns. For millennia, the planet had exhibited the standard background noise of a developing world, billions of minds creating a gentle ripple in the quantum fabric of space-time. But something had changed. The playback showed the normal pattern until approximately 50 Earth years ago. Then, like a symphony slowly building to crescendo, the frequencies began to shift. Subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but growing more complex with each passing year. Now, the pattern was unlike anything in the Galactic database. "Director," her assistant Ven 712 called from his station, "we're detecting another anomaly. Category 5. Kira moved swiftly to his terminal. Category 5 events had been increasing exponentially over the past decade. The first one they detected was a small child in Romania who dreamed the exact details of an earthquake 3 days before it happened. Then came the Japanese surgeon who could see cancers before any scan detected them. A teacher in Brazil who consistently knew which of her students needed help before they raised their hands. Today's anomaly was centered on a hospital in Seattle. A comatose patient was generating quantum patterns that exactly matched the frequency signature of their research station, a facility whose existence was one of the galaxy's most closely guarded secrets. "Are they scanning us?" Ven 712 asked, his tendrils writhing with concern. "No," Kira replied, watching the patterns unfold. "They don't even know we're here. This is something else." She pulled up the patient's medical records, hacked from the hospital system. Sarah Chen, age 34, coma induced by a car accident 3 days ago. But look at her neural activity. The human's brain scans showed patterns that shouldn't be possible for their species' current evolutionary stage. Her neurons were firing in 7-dimensional sequences, creating structures that resembled the quantum computing matrices their own civilization had only mastered in the last century. "It's like," Ven 712 paused, searching for the right words, like her mind is trying to remember something. A priority alert flashed across their screens. Another anomaly, this time from a small town called Miller's Creek. The report came from Scout Zix 427, one of their most reliable field observers. As Kira read his account of the child who walked through walls, her bioluminescence dimmed with realization. "We've been wrong about everything," she whispered. "We thought we were studying them, but they've been practicing." She quickly encrypted a channel to the Galactic Council. This couldn't wait for standard protocols. The humans weren't randomly developing abilities. They were remembering them. Every anomaly they'd detected wasn't a malfunction or a statistical outlier. They were witnessing a species-wide activation sequence. "Get me everything we have on human mythology," she ordered. "Focus on stories about lost powers, hidden potential, forgotten abilities. Cross-reference them with our anomaly database." As the results poured in, a pattern emerged that chilled her to her core. Every human culture had stories about people with incredible powers. They didn't write these stories as pure fiction. They wrote them as memories, cloaked in the safe disguise of mythology and fantasy. The quantum resonance chamber's alarm sounded again. The frequency patterns were changing faster now, becoming more organized, more deliberate. On the main screen, Earth glowed like a beacon in the quantum spectrum. "Send an emergency directive to all field stations," Kira commanded. "New protocol. Observe only. No direct interaction, no matter the circumstances. If my theory is correct, our presence isn't just studying their awakening. It's accelerating it." She added a personal note to the transmission. "To all research personnel, what we're witnessing isn't the evolution of a primitive species. It's the end of a species-wide hibernation. and we may have just triggered an early awakening. The awakening. Emergency session transcript. Galactic Council Chamber. High Orbit Station. Mars. The council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 17 advanced civilizations gathered for an unprecedented emergency session. Supreme Counselor Axon 1, their most experienced leader, studied the holographic projections with all 4 of his optical clusters. The data is conclusive, Research Director Kira 189 explained, her image projected from Lunar Station Epsilon 9. We're not dealing with random evolutionary jumps or isolated incidents. The human species appears to be undergoing a coordinated awakening of dormant abilities. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices and electromagnetic pulses of concern. Axon 1 raised his primary appendages for silence. Explain the acceleration pattern. Kira's bioluminescent patches pulsed as she brought up new data streams. 6 months ago, we recorded an average of 1 significant quantum anomaly per week. Last month, it was 1 per day. This week alone, we've detected 47 major events. The recordings played in sequence: a sailor who predicted and redirected a tsunami, a young artist whose painting showed exact images of exoplanets no human telescope had ever seen, a group of children who spontaneously began communicating in perfect mathematical equations that described 11-dimensional space. Most disturbing, Kira continued, is the pattern of these awakenings. They're not random. They're spreading like a cascade effect through their global consciousness. Each awakened human seems to unconsciously trigger similar abilities in those around them. The Security Commissioner, a crystalline entity named VGX-7, pulsed with dark colors. The containment protocols have failed completely, Kira interrupted. Our attempts to suppress these events have only accelerated them. It's as if humanity's collective consciousness recognizes our interference and adapts to counter it. Axon 1 interfaced directly with the data streams, processing centuries of human history in moments. These abilities, they're not new to them, are they? No, Kira confirmed. We found evidence suggesting humanity once possessed these capabilities but chose to suppress them. Their myths, their dreams, even their entertainment. They're not imagining these powers. They're remembering them. A new alert flashed across the chamber's displays. Scout Zix 427's observation post in Miller's Creek had gone dark, but not before transmitting one final image. The young girl he'd encountered, now surrounded by dozens of other children, all of them looking directly at his cloaked station and waving. The suppression is failing faster than we predicted, Kira reported, her voice tight with concern. We're detecting quantum resonance patterns that suggest their consciousness is beginning to operate on a unified field level. They're sharing knowledge, abilities, and awareness across their entire species. How? Demanded VX-7. Their technology shouldn't allow. They're not using technology, Kira interrupted again. They're using something far more fundamental, something woven into the very structure of their DNA. We thought their genetic code was primitive, but we were wrong. It's not disorganized, it's encrypted, and now it's decrypting itself. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't evolved these abilities by chance. They had engineered themselves, hidden their true potential behind genetic locks that would only open when they were ready. And somehow, the very act of being observed by advanced civilizations had become the key that started unlocking those restrictions. There's more, Kira added, her bioluminescence nearly white with stress. We've detected changes in their quantum field resonance that suggest they're not just awakening to their abilities, they're evolving beyond them. The powers we're observing may be just the first stage of something far more profound. Axon 1 processed this information through all his cognitive matrices before speaking. Recommendations. We have 3 options, Kira replied. Attempt containment, which will likely accelerate the process. Make official contact, which could shock them into a premature awakening. Or, VX-7 pulsed. Or we wait and watch, Kira said softly, because I believe we're not witnessing a crisis. We're witnessing a metamorphosis, and it may be something more remarkable than anything our civilizations have ever encountered. Breaking point. Field report. Earth observation network. Priority level. Ultimate. Status. Network collapse imminent. The quantum interference was becoming impossible to ignore. Across Earth, humans were changing in ways that defied the laws of physics, or perhaps revealed laws that no one, not even the Galactic Council, had fully understood before. Senior researcher Venn 712 watched in awe as his monitoring stations went dark one by one. Not from failure, but from evolution. The humans weren't destroying the observation posts. They were simply becoming aware of them, and that awareness alone was enough to unravel the most advanced stealth technology in the galaxy. Director Kira, he transmitted urgently. The Miller's Creek phenomenon is spreading. The children, they're teaching the adults. Through the remaining functional sensors, they watched as Sarah Chen, the comatose patient from Seattle, sat up in her hospital bed. Her eyes opened, revealing irises that shifted through impossible colors. The quantum readings from her consciousness now matched the complexity of a small galaxy. It's happening too fast. Kira's voice crackled through the quantum static. The awakening was supposed to be gradual, taking generations. Our presence has triggered some kind of emergency response in their collective consciousness. The evidence was everywhere. A mathematician in Cairo solved equations that proved the unified field theory. In her sleep, a farmer in Kansas began growing crops that defied genetic science, producing plants that could think. A kindergarten class in Tokyo spontaneously developed a shared dream space that began leaking into reality. Most remarkably, none of them seemed surprised. It was as if humanity had been expecting this all along, preparing for it through their stories, their dreams, and their constant questioning of reality's limits. Venn 712 sensors detected a massive quantum surge from Miller's Creek. The girl who had first spotted Scout Zix 427 stood in the town square, surrounded by hundreds of others. Their minds were linked in ways that made their most advanced neural networks look primitive. They're not just remembering, he realized, watching the patterns unfold. They're improving on what they used to be, the abilities they locked away. They'd been evolving all this time, hidden behind the genetic encryption. The message that came next was broadcast simultaneously to every observation post, every research station, and every council facility in the solar system. It arrived in perfect galactic standard, though no human had ever been taught the language. Thank you for your patience. We apologize for any concern we may have caused. The observation initiative has served its purpose. It helped us remember who we are. But please understand, what you're seeing isn't our destination. It's simply the first step in waking up. Kira's voice, now barely audible through the growing quantum distortion, carried a mix of fear and wonder. They knew. They knew we were watching. They've always known. Our entire observation program. It was part of their plan. The quantum readings from Earth were becoming impossible to interpret. Human consciousness was operating on levels that their most advanced sensors couldn't comprehend. Their reality-altering abilities weren't just returning. They were evolving into something entirely new. In Miller's Creek, the young girl looked up at the cloaked observation posts and smiled. When she spoke, her words echoed through both normal space and the quantum realm. Don't be afraid. We had to forget in order to remember correctly. Sometimes, the only way forward is to go back to the beginning and try again. We needed witnesses for the awakening. Thank you for being ours. Venn 712 managed one final transmission before his equipment transcended its own physical form. They weren't devolving when they locked away their powers. They were metamorphosing. And now they're about to show us what humanity was meant to become. Evolution's secret. Final transmission. Galactic date. Unknown. Source. Multiple. The message spread across the galaxy like ripples in a quantum pond, transmitted simultaneously through every known communication medium, and several that had never existed before. Supreme Counselor Axon 1 received it at the exact same moment as the youngest research assistant on the furthest observation post, a feat that should have been impossible given the vast distances involved. The message was simple: we remember now, and we understand why we forgot. In the following hours, as humanity's awakening reached its crescendo, the truth of their species' journey emerged. They shared it freely, broadcasting their story to every corner of known space. Long ago, humanity had achieved powers that bordered on the divine. They could reshape reality, transcend physical form, and touch the fundamental forces of the universe itself. But with that power came a terrible price. They began to lose their humanity. The very abilities that made them godlike threatened to erase what made them human. So they made an unprecedented choice. Instead of continuing their evolution toward omnipotence, they chose to forget. They encoded their powers into their DNA, locked behind gates that would only open when they had evolved something far more important than power: wisdom. The human race deliberately devolved their consciousness, wrapping their true nature in layers of limitation and ignorance. But they left themselves breadcrumbs, dreams, myths, stories, and an unquenchable desire to explore and understand. They scattered their secrets throughout their cultures, hiding them in plain sight as fiction and fantasy. The presence of advanced alien observers hadn't triggered their awakening by accident. Humanity had designed their genetic locks to respond to outside observation. They needed witnesses, other perspectives to help them remember correctly. Every story about aliens studying Earth had been a subtle reminder of this piece of their plan. From her disintegrating research station, Director Kira watched in awe as humanity transcended their physical forms. But they didn't abandon them. Instead, they learned to exist in both states simultaneously, maintaining their connection to their human experience while accessing their full potential. The children of Miller's Creek were the first to complete the transformation. Led by the girl who had first spotted their observers, they showed the rest of humanity how to wake up while staying grounded in their humanity. They remembered not just their powers, but why they had chosen to forget them. We needed to remember how to be human before we could safely be more than human. They explained to the watching galaxy. Power without wisdom destroys. Knowledge without understanding corrupts. We needed to grow up again, to relearn who we were from the beginning. The quantum resonance patterns from Earth stabilized into something entirely new, a perfect harmony between limited and limitless existence. Humanity had achieved what no other species had managed. They had found a way to touch infinity without losing themselves. As the last observation posts transcended their physical form, transformed by the very phenomena that they were studying, humanity sent one final message to the galaxy. Thank you for watching over us while we slept. Thank you for helping us remember. But most of all, thank you for showing us that the universe is ready for what comes next. We'd like to teach you what we've learned, not just about power, but about why limitations can be as valuable as abilities, about why being human is as remarkable as being godlike. After all, the message concluded, the most important thing we remembered is this: the universe doesn't need more gods. It needs more humanity. Supreme Counselor Axon 1, watching his own form begin to shift in response to humanity's awakening, realized that the greatest species they had ever discovered hadn't been discovered at all. They had been there all along, growing, dreaming, remembering. And now, at last, they were awake.